Hey there, you're looking kind of cute. Don't forget to subscribe and check out all my other socials. Enjoy. The spreadsheet looked like a mess of numbers. David felt dizzy again. He grabbed the edge of his desk. His knuckles turned white against the dark wood. His heart beat hard in his chest. He had felt this way for 3 months. "Are you okay, Davidson?" Marcus, who worked in the corner office, spoke. David tried to breathe slower. He fixed his navy tie and turned in his chair. "I'm fine. I just need some coffee." Marcus stood in the doorway. His gray suit looked perfect, like always. "You've been looking tired lately. Is everything okay at home?" Home. The empty townhouse with its echo of footsteps and the phantom scent of jasmine perfume in the master bedroom. David managed what he hoped passed for a casual shrug. Adjustment period. You know how it is. But Marcus didn't know. Nobody at Whitmore and Associates knew about the divorce papers signed 6 months ago, or the panic attacks that started when the firm lost the Henderson account, the account David had managed for 12 years before that calculation error cost them millions. "Take care of yourself." Marcus disappeared down the hallway. David waited until the footsteps faded before reaching into his desk drawer. The prescription bottle rattled as his hands shook. Dr. Patel had prescribed these 2 weeks ago after David finally admitted he couldn't function anymore. Anxiolytic, she'd called it. A new medication, highly effective for severe anxiety disorders. He dry swallowed 2 pills and returned to the spreadsheet. The numbers gradually sharpened into focus. His breathing steadied. By lunch, the vice grip around his chest had loosened enough that he could eat half a sandwich without feeling like he might choke. The medication worked. That was all that mattered. 3 weeks passed in a blur of client meetings and financial reports. The panic attacks retreated to manageable tremors. David even slept through the night occasionally, though he still reached across the bed sometimes, fingers finding only cold sheets. The first sign something was different came on a Tuesday morning. David stood before his bathroom mirror, electric razor buzzing, when he noticed his jawline looked softer. He leaned closer, studying his reflection. The harsh angles that had always defined his face seemed gentler somehow. Probably just the better sleep, he reasoned. Less stress showing. He dressed in his usual charcoal suit and headed to work. Nobody commented on any changes. Why would they? David had perfected the art of workplace invisibility since the Henderson disaster. Keep your head down, do the work, go home. Simple. But the changes accelerated. Within another month, David's dress shirts hung loose across his shoulders. His wedding ring, which he still wore out of habit, slipped off one morning while he washed dishes. When he held it up to the kitchen light, the gold band looked impossibly large. "You're losing too much weight," Dr. Patel observed during his follow-up appointment. She frowned at her tablet, scrolling through his file. "Have you experienced any unusual side effects from the medication?" David hesitated. How could he explain that his body felt foreign, like he was wearing an ill-fitting costume? That his skin had grown so soft he'd switched to a gentler soap? That his hair, once thinning at the crown, now fell thick and lustrous past his collar? "Just the weight loss, but I feel better, much better. The anxiety? Manageable." She made notes on her tablet. "Let's continue the current dosage, but I want you eating more, 3 full meals a day." David promised he would try. The real crisis came 2 months later. David stood in the department store dressing room, fluorescent lights harsh overhead, trying on his 5th pair of pants. Nothing fit right anymore. His hips had changed, widened somehow. The fabric pulled in all the wrong places. "Sir? Everything okay in there?" The sales associate's voice jolted him. David stared at his reflection, at the stranger staring back. His face had transformed beyond recognition. Cheekbones higher, nose smaller, lips fuller. His auburn hair cascaded past his shoulders now, despite his attempts to keep it short. Every barber appointment seemed pointless. It grew back within days. "I'm fine, just nothing fits right. Would you like me to bring different sizes? Maybe something from our women's section? We have some lovely professional wear that might..." "No, The word came out sharper than intended. David softened his tone. No, thank you. I'll figure it out. He left without buying anything. That night, David sat at his kitchen table with his laptop open. The search bar blinked accusingly. Finally, he typed, medication causing physical changes, male to female. The results made his stomach drop. Rare side effect, hormonal disruption, irreversible changes after extended use. Contact your physician immediately. David closed the laptop. He couldn't stop taking the medication. Not when it was the only thing keeping the panic attacks at bay. Not when he'd finally started feeling human again after the divorce and the career nosedive. He'd figure something out. The solution came to him during another sleepless night. If his body was changing, if people were starting to notice and ask questions, then he needed to control the narrative, make it look intentional, planned. The next morning, David called in sick to work. He drove 2 towns over where nobody would recognize him and parked outside a clothing boutique. His hands gripped the steering wheel. This was insane. But what choice did he have? Show up to work tomorrow in his ill-fitting suits and field questions he couldn't answer? Risk someone discovering his medical situation? The boutique smelled like vanilla and something floral. Soft jazz played overhead. David moved through the racks like a ghost, fingers trailing over fabrics he'd never imagined touching. Can I help you find something? The saleswoman appeared at his elbow. Young, early 20s, with a genuine smile that didn't falter when she took in his appearance. David had worn his loosest jeans and an oversized hoodie, but he knew what she saw. The delicate features, the long auburn hair he'd pulled back in a ponytail, the body that no longer matched the masculine clothes. I need, professional attire. For work. I'm transitioning. The lie fell out easier than expected. The saleswoman's smile widened. Of course. Let's get you measured and find something perfect. I'm Emma, by the way. Emma proved efficient and kind. She brought blazers in navy and black, silk blouses in cream and powder blue, pencil skirts that hit just below the knee. Professional, conservative. Nothing that would draw undue attention. The fit is beautiful, Emma said, as she had to think of herself as she now, stood before the 3-way mirror. The navy blazer nipped in at the waist. The cream blouse lay smooth across her chest. The charcoal skirt made her legs look longer. You'll need proper undergarments, too. Let me grab some options. She returned with bags full of clothes, more than she'd intended to buy, but Emma had been so helpful, so accepting. The total made her credit card wheeze, but what was money compared to maintaining her career? To keeping the questions at bay? Back home, she laid everything out on the bed. Tomorrow, she'd return to work as... what? Still David? That name felt like a suit 3 sizes too big now. She practiced in the mirror that night. Walking in the low heels Emma had insisted were essential. Sitting with her knees together. Applying the minimal makeup, just foundation to even her skin tone. Mascara to define her eyes. Lip gloss for color. Nothing dramatic. Nothing that screamed, "Look at me. My name is..." She paused. David was impossible now, but what else? It needed to be close enough that people might accept it as a simple change, an evolution rather than a revolution. Diane. My name is Diane. The next morning arrived too quickly. Diane dressed carefully, the navy blazer, cream blouse, charcoal skirt. She styled her auburn hair in a low bun, professional and contained. The makeup went on easier than expected. Her hands barely shook. The drive to work felt both endless and too short. She parked in her usual spot, took a deep breath, and walked through the lobby. The security guard did a double take but said nothing. The elevator ride stretched into eternity. Davidson, is that you? Marcus stood by the coffee machine, mug frozen halfway to his lips. Others in the break room turned to stare. It's Diane now, actually. Her voice came out steadier than expected, higher than before, but that had been changing for weeks. I'm transitioning. I hope that won't be a problem. The silence stretched taut. Then Marcus set down his mug and crossed the room. For a horrible moment, Diane thought he might say something cruel. Instead, he extended his hand. "Well then, Diane, good to have you on the team." The handshake felt like a lifeline. Others followed Marcus's lead, some confused, some curious, but professional. HR would need documentation. There would be forms to fill out, policies to review. But for now, Diane had bought herself time. The days blurred together. She refined her routine, arrive early, stay late, let the work speak for itself. Some colleagues adjusted quickly, others stumbled over pronouns before catching themselves. A few whispered in corners, but Diane had endured worse after losing the Henderson account. "You seem happier," Patricia from accounting observed one afternoon. They sat in the conference room, quarterly reports spread between them. "More yourself, I guess." Diane considered this. The anxiety medication still worked its magic, keeping the panic at manageable levels. But something else had shifted too. The constant feeling of wrongness, of wearing a costume that didn't fit, that had faded. "I suppose I am." Patricia smiled and returned to the reports. No further questions, no prying, just acceptance. Weeks turned to months. Diane's body continued its transformation, but gradually now. Her curves filled out the professional dresses and skirts. Her face settled into its new configuration, softer, undeniably feminine. She kept her auburn hair long, but styled simply. Nothing flashy, nothing that invited scrutiny. The legal name change went through without fanfare. New driver's license, updated email signature, fresh business cards. David Morrison ceased to exist in any official capacity. Diane Morrison took his place. "I've been meaning to ask," Dr. Patel said during a routine checkup. "You mentioned transitioning to your colleagues. Is that how you identify now? As transgender?" Diane sat on the examination table, paper crinkling beneath her. She wore a simple black dress today, comfortable flats. Her reflection in the wall mirror showed a professional woman in her 40s. Nothing remarkable. Nothing that would turn heads. "I suppose I am. The medication, it changed things, brought them to the surface, maybe. The side effects you experienced are extraordinarily rare, less than 0.001% of patients. I should have caught it sooner. But you would have taken me off the medication." "Yes. And the anxiety would have returned." Dr. Patel set down her tablet. "There are other medications, other treatments. But none that worked like this one did, none that gave me my life back." They looked at each other across the small room. Doctor and patient, two women navigating the complexities of modern medicine. "Do you want to stop taking it? The physical changes have likely plateaued by now, but—" "No." Diane smoothed her dress over her knees. "No, I don't want to stop." "Then we continue. But I'm adding hormone levels to your regular blood work. We need to monitor everything closely." Diane agreed. What else could she do? The first-year anniversary of starting the medication passed without fanfare. Diane marked it only by buying a new suit, a gorgeous plum number that Emma insisted brought out her eyes. Her wardrobe had expanded considerably, though she kept to professional styles. Nothing too feminine, nothing that might make clients uncomfortable. "You're up for the Baldwin account," Marcus announced one morning. He perched on the edge of her desk, a habit that had once annoyed David, but now felt friendly. "Big money, lots of responsibility. You sure you're ready?" The ghost of Henderson lurked in the corner of her vision. That spectacular failure that had started everything, the panic attacks, the medication, the transformation. But Diane wasn't David anymore. That scared, crumbling man had dissolved like sugar in rain. "I'm ready." She got the account. The presentation went flawlessly. The clients, a married couple nearing retirement, responded well to her careful explanations and conservative projections. Mrs. Baldwin even complimented her watch, a delicate silver piece Diane had bought to replace the chunky sports watch David had worn. "You've really turned things around," Marcus said afterward. They sat in his office, afternoon sun streaming through the windows. "After Henderson, I worried we might lose you." "That was a different person." Marcus studied her, really looked, maybe for the first time since she'd walked into the break room in that navy blazer and charcoal skirt. Yes, I suppose it was. The conversation might have gone deeper, but Diane's phone buzzed. A client emergency, numbers to crunch, calls to make. She excused herself and dove back into work, grateful for the distraction. Her personal life remained sparse. The townhouse echoed less now. She'd redecorated, adding color and warmth David had never bothered with. But evenings still stretched long and quiet. Dating felt impossible. How could she explain her situation? The medication, the changes, the careful construction of Diane from David's ruins? You should come out with us, Patricia suggested one Friday. Just drinks. Nothing crazy. Diane hesitated. Social situations beyond work, functions made her nervous. Too many variables, too many chances for the carefully maintained facade to crack. Just think about it, Patricia added. You can't live at the office forever. But Diane could, and did. Work provided structure, purpose, a reason to maintain the professional appearance that had become her armor. Weekends she spent reading financial journals and preparing for Monday meetings. If loneliness crept in during the small hours, she pushed it aside. Better alone than exposed. The second anniversary arrived with spring rain. Diane sat in Dr. Patel's office for her regular checkup. Blood work results spread across the desk. Your hormone levels have completely stabilized. Estrogen and testosterone in typical female ranges. How do you feel? Fine, good. The anxiety is still managed. And physically? Diane considered. Her body had found its equilibrium months ago. The extreme changes of the first year had given way to simple existence. She was just a woman now, nothing more complicated than that. No complaints. Dr. Patel made notes. Have you considered additional steps? Some trans women choose to pursue surgeries or... No. The word came quick and firm. This is enough. I'm complete. And she was. The thought of more changes, more alterations made her skin crawl. She'd found balance in this new form. Why risk disturbing it? Of course. Just wanted to make sure you knew the options. They scheduled the next appointment. Diane gathered her purse, a practical leather bag in chocolate brown, and headed for the door. Diane? She turned back. I'm glad the medication helped, despite the unusual circumstances. So am I. The drive home took her past the old places, the restaurant where David had taken his wife for anniversaries, the park where they'd walked on Sunday mornings, the jewelry store where he'd bought the ring that now sat in a box in the back of a drawer, too small for even her delicate fingers. But those memories felt like scenes from a movie watched long ago. David's life, David's choices, David's failures. Diane had her own life now, smaller perhaps, quieter, but hers. The Baldwin account flourished under her management. Other opportunities followed. The partners noticed. Her salary crept upward. She bought a new car, nothing flashy, just reliable. A sedan in midnight blue that matched her favorite blazer. You've become our secret weapon, Marcus joked during a team meeting. Clients love you. You have this way of making them feel heard. Maybe because Diane understood transformation. Understood the terror of watching yourself become unrecognizable. She could sit across from confused retirees and explain complex financial instruments with patience born from her own metamorphosis. The third anniversary passed, then the fourth. Time blurred together in a routine of work and solitude. Diane refined her wardrobe, settling into a signature style, tailored pieces in jewel tones, minimal jewelry, low heels. She wore her auburn hair in a sleek bob now, professional but softer than the severe bun of her early days. You never talk about yourself, Patricia observed one afternoon. They'd grabbed lunch at the cafe across from the office, a rare social outing Diane had allowed herself. We've worked together for years, but I know almost nothing about your life outside these walls. Diane stirred her soup, watching the spoon create small whirlpools. There's not much to tell. Family, friends, hobbies. I keep to myself mostly. Focus on work. Patricia's expression suggested this wasn't a satisfactory answer, but she didn't push. That was the thing about carefully maintained professional distance. People learned not to dig too deep. The medication continued its quiet work. Diane's anxiety remained manageable, a background hum rather than a screaming siren. She'd tried reducing the dosage once, experimenting on a long weekend. The panic had returned with vengeance, sending her to the bathroom floor, gasping and shaking. She'd resumed the full dose immediately. Dr. Patel had stopped suggesting alternatives. They both understood the bargain now, Diane's female body for David's mental stability, a trade she'd make again without hesitation. "There's someone I'd like you to meet," Marcus announced one morning. He stood in her office doorway with a younger woman, late 30s, sharp suit in forest green, confident posture. "This is Rebecca Chen, our new senior accountant. I thought you could show her around." Rebecca's handshake was firm, her smile genuine. "I've heard wonderful things about your work with the Baldwin account." "Just doing my job." But Rebecca proved persistent in a way that reminded Diane of Emma from the boutique. Kind without being pitying, interested without prying. She asked about restaurants and local services. She complimented Diane's organization system. She brought coffee some mornings, remembering that Diane took hers with just a splash of cream. "You're good at this," Rebecca said one afternoon. They'd spent hours untangling a client's investment portfolio, working in comfortable synchronization. Not just the numbers, the people part. Diane aligned the papers on her desk, edges perfect. "Experience helps. How long have you been in finance?" 20 years. The number included David's time, but that distinction felt meaningless now. The knowledge had transferred even if everything else had changed. "Always at Whitmore?" "The last 15 years, yes." Rebecca nodded, processing this information. She had a way of looking at people that suggested she saw more than they intended to share. But she never pushed past Diane's boundaries, never asked about the transition that everyone knew about, but rarely mentioned anymore. The 5th anniversary of starting the medication arrived with summer heat. Diane marked it by deep cleaning her townhouse, finally tackling boxes she'd avoided for years. David's things mostly, old photos, university memorabilia, the detritus of a life abandoned. She found their wedding album at the bottom of a box. David stood young and hopeful in a rented tuxedo, his bride radiant beside him. They'd been so certain then, so sure their love could weather anything. The album went in the donation pile. No point keeping artifacts from someone else's life. "You seem lighter lately," Dr. Patel observed during her checkup. "Less guarded." "Do I?" "The anxiety?" "Still managed. No panic attacks in over a year." "And otherwise, how's life?" Diane considered. Life was work and quiet evenings, professional accomplishments and personal solitude. It wasn't the life David had planned, but then again, nothing had gone according to David's plans. Stable, predictable. Is that enough? The question lingered as Diane drove back to the office. Was it enough? This careful existence she'd built from necessity? This persona crafted to disguise an impossible transformation? Want to grab dinner? Rebecca appeared at her office door as the day wound down. That new Italian place finally opened. Diane's automatic refusal died on her lips. Rebecca had been patient, kind, professional. Maybe one dinner wouldn't crack the facade. "Sure." Rebecca's smile lit up the room. The restaurant buzzed with opening week energy. They got a corner table, intimate but not uncomfortably so. Diane ordered conservatively, salad, grilled fish, sparkling water. Rebecca went for the pasta special and a glass of red wine. "So," Rebecca said after the waiter left, 20 years in finance. You must have started young." 22, right out of college. Always knew what you wanted." Diane thought of David's business degree, chosen for stability rather than passion, of the steady climb through corporate ranks, of the life built on shoulds rather than wants. "I thought I did." Rebecca studied her over the wine glass. "But not anymore? Things change, people change. That they do." The conversation flowed easier than expected. Work gossip, client stories, the challenges of managing other people's money, safe topics that skirted the edges of personal without diving deep. Diane found herself relaxing, shoulders dropping from their perpetual defensive hunch. "Can I ask you something?" Rebecca set down her fork, expression suddenly serious. And you can absolutely tell me to mind my own business. Here it comes, Diane thought. The questions about the transition, the curiosity about her body, her choices, her carefully constructed life. Are you happy? The question caught Diane off guard. Not are you really trans? Not what's your real name? Just, are you happy? I'm stable. That's not what I asked. Diane pushed salad around her plate. Happy felt too big, too dangerous to examine. Happy implied wanting things beyond mere survival. Happy meant risking the delicate balance she'd achieved. I don't know. Fair enough. Rebecca returned to her pasta. For what it's worth, you seem like someone who deserves happiness, whatever that looks like for you. They split the check, professional to the end. But when Rebecca suggested they do this again sometime, Diane found herself agreeing. The dinners became weekly, then twice weekly. Always after work, always somewhere public, always with the pretense of professional networking. But gradually, imperceptibly, something shifted. You're different around her, Patricia observed. She'd caught Diane actually laughing at something Rebecca had said in the break room. More yourself. Diane wanted to protest that she was always herself, that the careful construction of the past 5 years was herself, but the words felt hollow. Who was she really? The anxious man who'd started medication to survive? The woman who'd emerged from pharmaceutical chaos? Or someone else entirely, still becoming? We're friends, Diane said finally. Just friends. Patricia's expression suggested she wasn't buying it, but she let the subject drop. The 6th anniversary approached with autumn colors. Diane stood before her bathroom mirror, studying the woman reflected there. 46 years old, auburn hair touched with silver at the temples, fine lines around green eyes, a face that had settled into itself, no longer shifting or changing. She'd stopped thinking of this body as foreign months ago. Years, maybe. It was just her body now, the body that moved through the world, that shook clients' hands, that carried her from meeting to meeting. The body that had saved her from drowning in panic. You're wool gathering again! Rebecca's voice pulled her back to the present. They sat in Diane's living room. Financial reports spread across the coffee table. Working from home on weekends had become their habit. More comfortable than the office, more productive than restaurants. Sorry, just thinking. About? Diane gestured vaguely at herself. Time, change, the usual existential crisis. It's your anniversary, isn't it? Of starting transition? They'd never discussed it directly, but Rebecca paid attention. Of course she'd noticed the date's significance. 6 years. Do you ever regret it? The question should have felt invasive. Instead, it felt like release. Finally, someone asking what mattered instead of dancing around the edges. No, never. Even with all the complications, the challenges, I couldn't go back. Wouldn't want to. Rebecca moved around the coffee table, settling beside Diane on the couch. You know, when I first met you, Marcus pulled me aside, warned me you were private, that you'd transitioned a few years before, that I shouldn't pry. Sounds like Marcus. But the thing is, I wasn't curious about that part. I was curious about you. The person sitting in that office, making magic with numbers. The woman who could calm panicked clients with a few words. That's who interested me. Diane's heart, that treacherous organ that had once hammered panic through her system, now beat quick for different reasons. Rebecca? I know you keep people at distance. I understand why. But I've been patient, Diane. I've been your friend, your colleague, your dinner companion, and I'd like to be more, if you'll let me. The careful walls Diane had built trembled. 6 years of isolation, 6 years of managing alone, 6 years of believing that her transformation made her untouchable, unknowable, unlovable. I don't know how to do this, how to be close with anyone. We'll figure it out together, if you want to. Diane thought of David's marriage, built on expectations and shoulds, of the divorce that had shattered more than legal bonds, of the medication that had transformed everything, including the possibility of love. I want to. Rebecca's kiss was gentle, questioning. Diane answered with 6 years of loneliness finally breaking free. They took it slow. Coffee dates that weren't about work, weekend walks through the park, movies at Rebecca's apartment, cuddled on the couch like teenagers, each step careful but certain. I need to tell you something, Diane said one evening. They'd been officially dating for 2 months. The secret felt too heavy to carry any longer. About how this all started, about the medication. Rebecca listened without interrupting as Diane explained everything. The panic attacks after Henderson, the prescription that had changed more than brain chemistry, the gradual transformation that had forced her hand, the choice to present as trans rather than explain the impossible. So you didn't always feel female before the medication? I don't know. Maybe I did and never admitted it. Maybe the medication just revealed what was already there, or maybe it created something entirely new. I've stopped trying to untangle it. But you're happy now? Living as Diane? Yes, completely. This is who I am now, who I want to be. Rebecca took her hands. Then that's all that matters. The how and why, that's just backstory. You're the person I fell in love with. Present tense. Love. The word hung between them, bright and terrifying. You love me? Have for months. Probably since you explained derivative markets while eating takeout Chinese. You had this look of total concentration, and I thought, I want to know everything about this woman. Even the complicated parts? Especially those. The 7th anniversary passed in a blur of happiness. Diane had moved some clothes to Rebecca's apartment. Just a few pieces, work outfits for mornings when she stayed over. They maintained separate spaces still, but the boundaries blurred more each week. The partners want to promote you, Marcus announced one morning. Senior account manager, your own team, corner office, the works? Diane stared at the offer letter. The salary made her eyes water. Recognition for 7 years of rebuilt life. This is what you wanted, isn't it? Marcus asked when she didn't immediately respond. What you've been working toward? That was the question. What did Diane want? Not what David had wanted before everything changed. Not what necessity had demanded during the transformation. What did she want now? Can I think about it? Of course, take your time. She discussed it with Rebecca that night. The promotion would mean longer hours, more responsibility, less time for the life they were building together. What does your gut say? Rebecca asked. That I've been hiding in work for 7 years, using it as a shield. And maybe I don't need that shield anymore. Then you have your answer. Diane took the promotion but negotiated boundaries. No more 60-hour weeks, no more weekend emergencies unless absolutely necessary. The partners, surprised but accommodating, agreed. You've changed, Patricia observed at Diane's promotion celebration. The conference room hummed with colleagues toasting her success. Good change. You seem whole. Diane found Rebecca in the crowd, caught her eye across the room. I am. The 8th anniversary arrived with a question. Move in with me, Rebecca said over breakfast. They sat in her sunny kitchen, Diane wearing one of Rebecca's t-shirts and her own comfortable jeans. Officially, completely, no more 2 apartments, no more deciding whose place to sleep at. Just home, together. Diane's chest tightened, but not with panic. This was different. Anticipation mixed with residual fear. 8 years ago, David had lost his home in the divorce. Could Diane build a new one? Yes. They found a house in the suburbs. Nothing fancy. 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, a garden that needed work. But it had good bones, the realtor assured them. Solid foundation. Just like us, Rebecca joked, signing papers. Moving day revealed how little Diane had accumulated in 8 years. Clothes, of course. Work files. The silver watch. A few pieces of furniture. The townhouse had been a way station, not a home. We'll fill it together, Rebecca promised, surveying the empty rooms. And they did. Slowly, carefully, with the same patience that had marked their courtship. Art for the walls, dishes that matched, A bed big enough for 2 people who'd learned to share space. "I need to renew my prescription," Diane mentioned one evening. They were unpacking books, debating shelf organization. "Annual checkup with Dr. Patel. Want company?" No one had ever offered before. Diane had managed every medical appointment alone, every blood draw, every consultation about the medication that had rewritten her existence. "Would you?" Of course. Dr. Patel's expression when Diane arrived with Rebecca was carefully neutral, but her eyes crinkled with something like approval. "This is Rebecca, my partner. Lovely to meet you." Dr. Patel shook hands, then turned to Diane. "Shall we do the usual workup? The blood draw, the vitals, the questions about side effects and quality of life. All routine after 8 years. But having Rebecca there, holding her hand during the blood draw, made it feel different. Less clinical, more like care. "Everything looks good," Dr. Patel announced, reviewing results. "Stable across the board. How's the anxiety?" "Managed. No panic attacks in over 3 years. And otherwise, life is good?" Diane squeezed Rebecca's hand. "Life is very good. Then we continue as we have been. Though," Dr. Patel hesitated, "there are new medications now, ones that might manage your anxiety without the hormonal effects, if you ever wanted to explore options." 8 years ago, that offer might have tempted her. The chance to return to something resembling David's body, to undo the transformation that had upended everything. Now? "No, thank you. I'm good as I am." "I thought you might say that." Dr. Patel smiled. "Same time next year, then?" They left the office hand in hand. Rebecca drove while Diane watched familiar streets pass by, the same route she'd driven countless times alone. Everything the same, but completely different. "No regrets?" Rebecca asked. "About not trying the new medications?" "None. This is my body now, my life. I wouldn't change it. Even though it started as a side effect? Something unintended?" Diane considered. The medication had transformed her, yes. But into what? Not just a different body, a different person, someone capable of rebuilding after loss, someone who could accept love when offered, someone who could sit in a car with her partner and feel complete. The best things in life are often unintended. The 9th anniversary passed quietly. Diane in the garden, hands deep in soil, coaxing life from neglected beds. Rebecca on the porch with coffee and the crossword. Domestic in ways David had never managed to be. "Henderson called," Rebecca said eventually. "Wants to come back to the firm. Wants you specifically to manage their portfolio." Diane sat back on her heels. Henderson, the account that had started David's downward spiral, the failure that had triggered everything. Panic, medication, transformation. "What did you tell them?" "That I'd pass along the message, but the decision is yours." Was it irony or poetry that they wanted her now, the woman who'd risen from David's ashes? The person shaped by their rejection? "Set up a meeting. Let's see what they're offering." The Henderson representatives didn't recognize her. How could they? The anxious man who'd fumbled their numbers bore no resemblance to the polished woman who walked them through investment strategies. Diane felt David's ghost in the conference room, but didn't let it rattle her. "We made a mistake," the CEO admitted afterward. "Letting you go, we'd like to make it right." That was a different person, a different time. "Still, we'd like you back." Diane named a figure that would have made David choke. They agreed without hesitation. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to check out my other socials if you want more content, early access, behind the scenes, and more. All links down below.